All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the free agency frenzy recap here live on the Catch the Blitz YouTube. I'm Thomas Parknick, joined by Christian Catanacci. Cat, what's going on? We had a busy day one of
Oh,
free agency
baby.
today.
Francie's full effect right now. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna sit in here a little bit, spend a couple hours in here. I believe we said we're going till 10 o'clock tonight
Yeah,
Eastern
we started
time.
a little later, so maybe we'll go a little later from that, but we'll see. We're here to break everything down. There was a lot of stuff that went through today. I think that was a record actually for the first deal.
Yeah, and I liked it too. It was so fitting of who it was and who made the deal.
The
The
Bengals.
fact that the Bengals literally at what was it, maybe 12:01. I don't know how that's it's called legal tampering, but you have to think when something like that happens, it's like that's the closest thing to tampering possible.
Oh, absolutely. Like that. It's like you know that there was some sort of communication there prior to, um, obviously the start of free agency because that was literally like 30 seconds, and then you had the chef. He was there, and it just went. He's ready and intended to sign with the Bengals, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like that's probably it was a little fishy to me, but hey, it's nothing that we don't know what happens there. You know what I mean? It is what it is at the end of the day.
Perfect, just perfect that it was the Bengals too, because it's like th- that's their number one need. Like we all watched the Super Bowl, it was the last game of the season, and we saw Joe Burrow get absolutely destroyed. So it's great that they got an offensive line and wasted zero time. There's a ton of other teams that wasted no time today. I believe we're going to talk about the Jags for probably the next hour and a half.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
only team people are really talking about today. But in the midst of all this, like Tom Brady came out of retirement last night, which was just wild. I think since we've done our last podcast, the amount of stuff that's gone on has just been insane. Russell Wilson's a Bronco now.
Wentz,
Aaron Rodgers is staying in Green Bay.
yeah.
It's been busy. It's been a busy time of the
We're
year.
missing one too. It was
Bobby Wagner, maybe?
Bobby Wagner. It was the Russell Wilson, Wentz,
Khalil Mack also
Rogers,
got
Khalil
traded.
Mack. Talk about Khalil Mack though. The Chargers, they're going all in. Like J.C. Jackson now too. Like that is a big time all in move by the Chargers here. And I mean, look, that's what I would like to see more teams with rookie contracts. I think that's the way you got to go, right? I think you have Justin Herbert who's going to make, by the time he signs his deal, it's going to be like a $50 million deal, right?
Yeah, but with how the
So
cap's going up for
you
sure.
might as well take in all the contracts that you can now, try and win in this Super Bowl window that you have while Herbert costs you next to nothing against the cap, and then you move from there, right?
It's just the way that division has gone in the last 4 or 5 days is just crazy. The fact that you got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs there, we know how good they are. That I always say it every year, even when they're struggling. That division goes through the Chiefs. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson's a Bronco, which took me. I was so
Oh,
shocked from that. I didn't think he was moving this year. Derek Carr and the Raiders are always pesky. They're going to win their games, and Justin Herbert, and the Chargers going all out. It's crazy.
there was chatter prior to free agency here, and saying, oh, the Chargers are going to go all in, and they're going to make all these moves, but I didn't actually think that it was going to, right? I didn't think it'd come down to it at the end of the day. I thought, you know what I mean? There's always talk, and how I find it is there's always like the bad teams. Like you see the Jags, they're always the teams that spend most money, right? And and then the Chargers, who if you look at, I mean, that division's already stacked, so they realize like if we're gonna try and make a push for it, their team was good, but you got to remember they didn't make the playoffs last year, right? So there's clearly room for improvement there, and the fact of the matter is they recognize that, and look, they spend money and they're not afraid of it.
Yeah, you say they didn't make the playoffs, and when that went down, I think we did a podcast the next morning, and I said that the best teams aren't in the playoffs because the Chargers aren't in it. I still believe that was true then, but if you look at them now going into next season, like Justin Herbert's going to year three, he's going to get even better. You can't show me a single weakness on this roster. Offensive line has got a ton of stars. Corey Linsley, Rashawn Slater. Wide receiver and core. They held on to Mike Williams. I didn't really like that contract. It doesn't really matter. They still have him on their team. We know how good he is.
Yeah,
Keenan
they got a
Allen's-
good. You got as good a rapport with Herbert,
Exactly.
right? Absolutely.
Austin Eckler in the backfield. Justin Jackson, the backup, a really
Yes.
good player. Defensive side of the ball, which was the Achilles heel of the team a year ago. Like, talk about star power. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James. Like, are you kidding me? They're
That team's
absolutely
legit.
stacked.
That team
Like,
is legit.
talk
And-
about day one free agency, how to just completely not transform your team, but ascend yourself to the top of the NFL world, NFL hierarchies. That's what the Chargers just did now with the moves that they made today.
Absolutely.
And I'm not a big believer in necessarily building your roster through free agency, but they're doing a really, really good job with the moves that they made today.
I agree. They have little to none when it comes to weaknesses. I see Stefano just puts it in the chat, say that the middle linebackers are only weakness, which is true, right? They took Kenneth Murray.
Yeah,
but
and he's still a little raw, but
he's raw. But I mean, look, it's obviously a weakness because it is their weak. I mean, in terms of talent, but it's hard to say a weakness because you look at all the other positions on the defense and it's like, okay, right? This is a legit team. But I think Kenneth Murray can still. I think there's potential that's still untapped. But if we're talking about weakness, yeah, absolutely that linebacker spot, you could see them. But who knows? They still got money left over.
They have
Like,
a ton of money.
right? They could.
Yeah.
They can make a play for Bobby Wagner too.
That J.C. Jackson deal, when that went down, the whole speculation going in was that he's asking for a Jalen Ramsey type contract. The Patriots just weren't budging on that. That's how the Patriots are. They're not going to be an organization that's
Absolutely.
going to pay through the roof for a player. But when I saw the actual details of the contract today, the fact that one, J.C. Jackson makes less money than Christian Kirk, and if you put those guys one-on-one with each other, I'll bet some heavy money that J.C. Jackson's coming out on top. But to me, that seemed like a contract that the Patriots easily could have worked around at least.
Oh, I mean, you think so? Like, and sure, we've seen with New England in the past them having just they seem to be okay with letting their homegrown talent sort of walk, right? And they especially at cornerback. Like you saw with Stephon Gilmore, sure they signed him as a free agent, but dating back to like the Asante Samuel days, they didn't even pay Asante Samuel. He left, right? He went to Philadelphia. So it's been sort of a running common day. Who just signed with the Chargers? Oh, Joseph Day, another one. See, like the Chargers are out here, and they're the defensive tackle. Like that's their defensive line is incredible. Like
Did they sign
a very, very good defensive line.
They signed another defensive
secondary.
tackle today too. I'm blanking on who it was now. And then they obviously got Mack and Bosa coming off the edge. They have Jerry Tillery, who's a first-round pick, still there. Another move that just came in: Harrison Phillips, Buffalo Bills defensive tackle, signing with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's some pretty good business as well. Not a huge name, but a pretty productive player in there. What I think we'll do now that we got the YouTube live stream up and running, doesn't seem like there's any problems with it unless people are in the chat barking that they can't hear us.
No, I don't think I see the chat here. There hasn't been too much banter.
Well,
can you get the chat on there or no?
I think I should be able to, but I guess we'll go off of it from you. We'll get everyone from Instagram in here. We'll go live on Instagram. Tell them to hop in YouTube. And we'll dive into some more things. I want to talk winners, losers from day one of free agency, and of course, I mean the Jaguars. I keep teasing it, but I can't wait to talk about. I don't know how many signings they made today, but it's been a lot.
Which is gonna go live on Instagram here.
Just put it in the chat that we're live on YouTube. Was Christian Kirk the biggest deal of the whole day in terms of contract value?
Absolutely, 100%. He made like big time money, and the best part is Scheffler comes up and he goes, he starts going, oh, he's getting $21 million. Obviously, it was a little bit fabricated, but he knew that would get all the clicks, right?
Yeah, and I think people need to look into contracts more before they rush to social media comments and all
Absolutely.
that. Just because, like,
We're getting some numbers in here,
There-
guys.
there's-
We're live on YouTube right now, Thomas and I. If you guys want to come in, check it out. We're doing a day one recap on our YouTube channel. I would link it down below, but I don't think you guys would be able to. So you have to go into our profile, click our link, and we are actually on YouTube. Watch, I'll show you guys right here. We are on YouTube. So come on in, hang out, and ask some questions. Come on in. You know, we're here. We're gonna be live until about 10:30, and we're gonna be answering all your questions, recapping everything. Thomas and I here. 10:30. This is the first day of free agency. I see numbers starting to pick up now, but come on in. We're gonna be here for quite a while, about 2 hours. So.
Just turn your phone down like this and write it in the comments, pin it, and that way when people come in, they know they're coming to the YouTube.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, sweet. Let's get into more of the heavy topics today. Now that we're getting some more people in here.
Thoughts on the Jags? The Jags,
yeah,
man.
Why not? Let's just go right into it. I guess if you really think about where the Jaguars stand as a franchise, you saw year one with Trevor Lawrence, and I guess there was some promise there later on in the season. Of course, he had a couple rough spells. But when you have a player with the magnitude of Trevor Lawrence and how hyped he was as a prospect, you got to be pretty confident in that guy. And you want to build a good system around him. So
Absolutely.
I applaud them for their effort and their aggressiveness. But I think what this really comes down to is General Manager Trent Baalke, who's obviously on the hot seat, is just feeling the pressure, and it was just too much in literally every single deal. And yes, I'm not going to sit here today and tell you that the Jaguars didn't get better as an organization, but like the way in which they spent that money is just ludicrous to me.
Absolutely. I mean, we mentioned it earlier before we got the numbers in the stream, is that there's always a tendency, the teams that seem to spend big in free agency tend to be bottom tier teams. And I mean, if you look at the last year, sort of how the Jaguars went out and spent a lot, and they sort of got overshadowed by the Patriots going in and going all in. But I mean, the Jaguars, you can criticize the Christian Kirk deal as much as you guys want, but was it a good deal? No, but at least they're committed to getting Trevor Lawrence weapons and protecting him, and right. I think that's the way you got to go. Obviously, I don't agree with giving money to everyone and everyone, but at the end of the day, you got to applaud sort of Jacksonville being aggressive and saying, look, we know that we need weapons, we know that we need to protect our guy, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Like, not to to totally just dump on the whole Christian Kirk signing, but if you look at what he's getting paid compared to his counterparts, Michael Gallup, what did the Cowboys sign Michael Gallup for? $14 million a year?
12 and a half.
Like
12 and a half.
The Dolphins today signed Cedric Wilson for $7 million. I'm not saying Cedric Wilson's a better wide receiver than Christian Kirk, but is it crazy to say that they're potentially in the same tier? And even then, I think I'd elevate Christian Kirk a little higher. But Christian Kirk is a solid wide receiver 2, a very good wide receiver 3. Nowhere around him is deserving of that crazy big contract. But like I said, if you just completely throw out the numbers and you look at the team that Jacksonville's now building, I'm incredibly intrigued to see what they're doing next year, because we always see that with rookie quarterbacks, that second-year jump that they make. Trevor Lawrence now, what's he going to do? How's he going to get better? We look at the pieces around him, his offensive line. Cam Robinson was franchise tagged. They spent some money on a guard today too, right? Brandon Sheriff. Big time money. He's probably going to be the highest paid guard in the NFL. Evan Neal looks like could be out of the question in number 1 overall pick just because of this offensive line investment. But even if they do decide to add him, that's a really solid offensive line. In the backfield, you got not just James Robinson, but you finally get a chance to see Travis Etienne.
Yeah, exactly.
At wide receiver, we have Laviska Shenault, who's been a very intriguing player thus far in his career, incredibly versatile. I know DJ Chark now, he looks like he's going to walk, but you got Zay Jones, you got Marvin Jones, and now Christian Kirk. So that's a decent, there's not really any star power. You got Dan Arnold.
It's a step. They were, at the end of the day, they were the worst team in the league the past 2 years, right?
And if we look at that division, the Titans, I know we've been saying this for a while now, and a lot of people have been saying this for a while now, that maybe they're due for a bit of a step back. They seem to continue to churn out wins every year, but I'm not going to sit here and say that they're this powerhouse. The Colts don't even have a quarterback right now. The AFC South is probably the most wide open division in the entire conference.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Honestly, I'd love, if there are any Jaguars fans in the chat right now, I would love to hear some perspective on your feelings around this team, because to me, the one word I'd say is intrigue.
I think I would agree with that. There are a few Jaguars fans here. There's people saying it's a little laggy. I'm sorry if it is. This is our first time live streaming, but you've got to overpay to get players on bad teams. It is how it is. You're right. And another thing too that people don't realize when it comes to free agency is usually the people that are on free agents, that are in free agency, available in free agency, are going to get overpaid, quote unquote overpaid, right? Because that's what tends to happen when there's a lot of people bidding for you. A bid war happens, and you tend to get more than what you would have signed for if you were to just stay on your team, right? That's what sort of happens. But trade James Robinson. I mean, someone's saying lower your bit rate. I don't know what that means. Pock's a computer guy, but
we gotta get it. We gotta get into this.
Get some questions. The Seahawks. Why are the Pats spending money at receiver? Mitch in the chat. Shout out Mitch. The bottom line for you guys, got to go check him out. Very, very good stuff. Really good on camera. He's fantastic. Mitch, what do you think about the Patriots? What's going on there? I thought the Patriots would come out maybe. I mean, we saw them last year sort of come out guns blazing, but I personally feel like New England is waiting for maybe a tier 2 type of receiver. Like, I could see them go after Juju, or I don't know if they're going to spend for Allen Robinson. I do think Allen Robinson is going to get paid, to be honest. I think if we're looking at like fits for Allen Robinson, I can see him. I thought he was going to go back to Jacksonville.
I thought it was going to be a situation where, similar to what Jackson was doing, one of your lower end teams that gets a little bit desperate for a bigger name and spends big on a receiver that, to be honest with Allen Robinson, we all felt bad for him last year when he was franchise tagged, but he had a crazy regression year last year. So, I don't know. To me, why a team, like specifically New England or any team that's not spending on wide receiver, I don't know. I would always approach with caution with these free agent wide receivers, because every single year we see in the NFL, it's a deep wide receiver class.
Exactly.
There's so many talented athletes. You get guys out of the 3rd, 2nd round, your Chase Claypools, T. Higgins, DK Metcalfs of the world. It's like, why would you spend that much when you can get a playmaker who can definitely perform at such a high level in your later rounds? So that to me is why many teams decide to approach with caution in these situations.
100%. Thoughts on the Bears? I mean, the Bears, speaking of the Bears, Mitch Trubisky, the deal came out. It's 2 years, $14 million deal. I think that's a fantastic deal. I for one am higher, I guess you can say, on Trubisky than most, but I was very dependent on fit. And I think that this is the perfect fit. I think Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh is a very, very good fit. I'm not going to say that Trubisky is going to be the long-term answer at quarterback for them, but I do think that if we're talking about bridge quarterbacks, strictly bridge quarterbacks, I don't think the Steelers could have gotten much better than Mitch Trubisky, especially 2 years, $14 million. That's a very, very good deal. Very good deal.
Yeah, I think that, you said bridge quarterback, I think that sort of confirms that they're going to be aggressive in the draft and potentially getting a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett. But if you look at, the Dolphins signed a quarterback today, and they signed Teddy Bridgewater 1 year, and it's been reported that it's north of $6 million. So you're essentially paying the same amount of money you would to a backup as the Steelers are going to pay their starter next year. That's great business. To me, if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm left a little frustrated, maybe wanting a little bit more, just because we see the potential that defense has. Their offense has some nice weapons as well. I genuinely think that they're a quarterback-type team away. Maybe I would have gone for more of a Jimmy Garoppolo type, but I don't know. There's a couple teams still that are going to be looking for quarterbacks. Deshaun, it sounds like he's down to the Panthers and the Saints. The Colts, I think we're going to hear some news tomorrow out of Indianapolis, whether that be Jimmy G or even Mariota maybe.
Absolutely. I agree, Mitch, to be honest. Chark Chark is a receiver that I am very high on. I know he's coming off a pretty gruesome injury, but I think he's got upside. I don't know if he's just going to get overpaid now. Like, you look at that Kirk deal and say what you want about it, but it's going to affect the receiver market. Like, these receivers now are going to sort of look at that. And I hate how people go like, oh, one bad contract isn't going to change anything. It's like, but it's sort of what the going rate for a receiver becomes. Like, it's a market value, right? Just because a guy, quote unquote, isn't worth whatever he signed for, $18 million. If you're, let's say, DJ Chark now, and like you're going to sign a contract and a team's trying to sign you at $12 million, $13 million, are you not going to like sit there and say, oh, but Christian Kirk just signed for $18 million. You think that Christian Kirk is worth $5 million more than me? No, right? Like, that's the going rate there is it's going to change. And it goes back to what you said. It seems like every single year now there's top receivers, and not even just top receivers, just athletic receivers that come out of the draft. It's like they just bleed out receiving talent. It's like, are you willing to pay a tier 2 receiver, or why not just draft a guy and start treating it like a running back position? Obviously, I think that maybe the NFL is going to go in that direction. You pay the top tier guys like the Devontae Adams, the Tyreek Hills, the DeAndre Hopkins, but those tier 1Bs, like we saw perfect examples, the Cowboys with Amari Cooper. Are you willing to pay a 1B $20 million, or are you going to save the money, put it elsewhere, and draft a guy?
Well, obviously the Jaguars are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But no, that's exactly how these negotiations go. DJ Chark or Juju Smith-Schuster or whoever is representing these receivers, they're going to go and say,
absolutely,
listen, this is my body of work compared to this guy, and this guy's making X amount of dollars. I'm worth more than that. So that's definitely a deal that's going to sort of reset the market. And honestly, I think it surprised me so much because last season we saw the Giants go out and sign Kenny Golladay for $18 million a year. And that was a deal that a lot of people and a lot of teams saw as, okay, we're gonna approach with caution this year because it's not working out. It's not worth it in a system, in a situation like the Giants have to pay a wide receiver that much money. Here we are, not even 12 hours into free agency, and the Jaguars have already gone out and done that. But a couple of other guys that I guess are still available in other positions. I was going through the free agent tracker that we posted out here. Number one guy left on our list is Teron Armstead, formerly of the New Orleans Saints. I expected him to have a huge market. I know he's the type of player that whenever we post a news report of him or whatever, everyone's just tagging their teams in the comments. But the Bengals obviously were a team that would be interested in him. The Dolphins as well. There's not a single team in the NFL that could not use an upgrade at offensive line. It's just that important of a position.
He's in line for a big payday too. I can say, honestly, like, I mean, I don't mean to get your hopes up, but I can see him in Miami too.
We spent a lot of money today. We re-signed Emmanuel Ogbah. Mike Gesicki signed his franchise tag. We got Chase Edmonds, Cedric Wilson. So we addressed a lot of needs. Our biggest need is still yet to be addressed. We don't have a ton of draft picks this season. I would love it. I'm not crazy confident that it's going to happen because of the business that we did today. But then again, I don't know, because if you asked me even 24 hours ago, I would have said the Bengals or the Dolphins are going to be the two teams that are most interested in Teron Armstead. Now, I don't quite know. What I would be most intrigued is if the Saints pulled the plug on Deshaun Watson. And I know they have a ton of cap issues if that happens, but would he be inclined to maybe come back to New Orleans, or would the Saints really push even harder for him, knowing that they have a guy like Deshaun back there? They want to protect him. I don't know.
The Deshaun Watson landing spot is a little bit, it's tricky to me because, first off, I want to hear where all you guys think Deshaun Watson's going to go. I personally I've been on the Carolina train since last year.
Yeah.
Right? I've been on, I thought Carolina just made sense, right? From my roster standpoint, from a standpoint from what they could give up via trade and so on and so forth. But now I'm starting to lean. I don't know, man. I really do think that the Saints are a very legitimate landing spot for Watson now. I do. And it's almost like I was looking at it, and I just did not. I guess I shied away because I saw the cap number for the Saints, but the Saints are right there now. They're like what, -5 million out of the cap. I don't know. I think that would be a fantastic fit, like a great fit. And then, but then the question is like, where does Winston sign after that? Like, where if he does sign with the Saints, where does Winston go? Right?
There's so many guys that are just dependent, and it's always the stars that move the market. Like, you don't think all those guys like your Jameis Winstons of the league, when they saw Tom Brady come out of retirement,
Yeah, they were pissed.
Of course,
Obviously.
I mean, and I'm one of them. But I had that reaction when I saw Tom Brady come out of retirement. I just toyed with the bit rate, what the comments were saying. Let me know if it's improved at all. I'm sort of peeking over there. I do see it's a little choppy. But we're, like you said, it's a work in progress. It's our first stream.
It is our first stream. Yeah,
we are going to be streaming every single, or for the next 2 days, with all this craziness going on in free agency. But keeping up with the board here, Teron Armstead's our number one guy left. Von Miller comes in at second. He's fifth overall. Denver's a big spot that a lot of people are touting of Von Miller too. Do you see a reunion coming there?
Well, Von Miller and the Broncos.
And the Broncos.
I think so. To be honest, I really Mitch was best QB in the NFL best QB on the planet back. But Von Miller, I can see a reunion, but I do think there's a very legitimate market for Von Miller. Like if Von Miller wants to go and get another big contract and test free agency, because this is the first time he's been a free agent. He's never been a free agent before. So, I mean. Look, it depends what he wants. I could see him going back to Denver, but I could also see him sort of cashing out. Like, look, he's won 2 Super Bowls. I don't know what else he's got to prove, right? Mm-hmm. At this point, it's like, okay, look, Vaughn, if you want to go and get your money, go and get your money, because I do think there is a very legitimate contract, a little legitimate market for him. I know there's been a few reports. There was upwards of 13, 14 teams that were willing to pay up money to sign Von Miller. So there's a legitimate market there, very legitimate.
I mean, if you're just looking at him as a player, one, outstanding production on the field, but also the leadership that he brings and all those other intangible qualities that a guy with his experience would bring into a locker room. I wouldn't be surprised if it's upwards of 14 teams that are interested in a guy like that. I don't know. I kind of got suckered into the whole reunion in Denver story, especially once they got Russell Wilson. But I've also read, and I think we put it out earlier today, a report that Bobby Wagner's interested in the Broncos too. So I'm sort of hooked on that storyline as well. I don't think it's going to be both of them. I would love to see at least one of them go and spice up that AFC West even more, because if we look at that division, I mean, we were talking about earlier before we sort of had more people come in, but that, like, those Chargers, those Chiefs, those Broncos now, to think that all those teams are going to play each other twice this year is like, wow, are we ever in for a treat this season? It's going to be a lot of primetime games in the AFC West.
That division is incredible. Incredible. I see what are the Steelers at with the cap currently? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know exactly what the number is. He should go to Philly. I agree, to be honest. I do think that if we're talking about perfect fits, I had Pittsburgh. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember the graphic I put out early in the week, or this past weekend, actually, just maybe it had been yesterday or the day before, but I said the Steelers were the perfect fit for Watson, but right after that I had Philly. Like, if you look at Philly from a roster standpoint, especially now after this Hassan Reddick deal, that's a very good team.
Well, their front seven is, and I mean, I know they made the playoffs last year. A lot of people say it was one of the weaker teams to make the playoffs. They got blown out against the Bucs, but that defense is really what propelled, like, front seven, strong O-line, and the run game is what got them that far. So I think that they're a couple pieces away from being a lot more of a complete roster. Obviously, Hassan Reddick helps a lot. They already have some nice playmakers there. But yeah, like if you add a Deshaun Watson caliber type quarterback to that team, and obviously he's going to give a boost to every team. To me, and maybe I'm a sucker for believing what these coaches and GMs say, but I mean, how many times has Howie Roseman said Jalen Hurts is our quarterback next year? And I know people are going to point to the whole Josh Rosen saga when, I think it was Steve Keem said Josh Rosen's our quarterback, and then they went and traded for Kyler Murray. But I don't know. I think Jalen Hurts has done enough at least to get another year. I mean, what kind of era are we in if we're just moving off guys every 10 minutes?
Yeah, I see another comment in the chat here. Say Jalen Hurts is a solid QB. Just got to give the young man a second receiver.
There you go.
I don't think Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback. I just think how I see the quarterback position in the NFL is it's a very polarizing position, obviously, right? Because you have your tier of elite quarterbacks, and there's just a bunch of very good ones. Obviously, at the end of the day, if you're in the NFL, bottom line, you're among the elite players at your position from a general standpoint. But if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, and now correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, correct me if you think you disagree, I want to hear why, but if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, like if I was a general manager, I would just keep trying until I got one.
You can
like you think you can win? Like give me okay, Kirk Cousins. Let's say Kirk Cousins is the 12th best quarterback in the league. Do you think you can win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins?
The 49ers were how close to winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo a couple years ago. They were pretty close to getting there this year. But you could argue that the reason that they lost those games was because they didn't have that elite skill level at quarterback. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think you can build a great system around a guy who's mature, smart, can make most of the throws, is not going to turn the ball over, and you can go very far in this league. Has it become a league where there's so much attention on the quarterback and it's such a demanding position because of guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, who are just doing it all week in and week out for their team? Of course it has. I don't know. To me, there's more than one way to bake a cake, and that's become the most popular way. Is it the only way? I think not in every example.
I guess. I mean, why haven't the Niners done it yet? It's more so like the fact that look, the Niners are in the process of doing it right now.
They did do it. They traded a ton. They traded 3 first round picks.
They tried that experiment. Like they tried it. They tried it, and they got very close. But you're also taking the Niners. I feel like are a very it's a weird team to draw comparisons to because like that team is very very good. And they have a subpar quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, but like, could you, if you take the Philadelphia Eagles for example, just because this is what we're talking about, the Eagles are a good team on paper, but they're nowhere near the 49ers, and the 49ers couldn't get it done. So why should you believe that the Jalen Hurts will be able to get it done, right?
I guess I just think like it's in the job description of these general managers and these scouts and these coaches. Like one. The general managers and the scouts, their job is to literally identify talent and bring that talent to their team.
Absolutely.
So when you draft a guy, there's a certain obligation to, one, give him a shot and see what he has, and two, hope that the coaching staff that you've employed is going to develop that player. And that's the coach's job. So I think there's almost a certain pride factor. And I'm not going to say it's like the ego of the front office and the coaches, but like NFL executives and coaches are in the business of developing players. So it's like if we're just going to fold and not try and just say we're going to make trades until we have Patrick Mahomes, it's sort of like going against what they're literally being paid to do.
I mean, I don't think that's not a bad take at all, to be honest. Like, they're at the end of the day, you do have pride in the league. It's a look, if you think that these coaches and these general managers and these players even don't hold pride, then you're just wrong, right? Like you look at all these, a lot of head coaches too. It's a very, you don't want to give up on a guy like you mentioned. Like you want to draft a guy. You see Russell Wilson's, the Dax, and you go to the extreme case of Tom Brady's, but everyone wants to develop the next guy. Right? Like, oh, look, we drafted this guy in the 3rd round, or whoever Hurts was drafted in the 2nd round, and he's developed into this franchise starting quarterback. But the fact of the matter is, there's 15 quarterbacks that get drafted in rounds 2 to 7 in every year, right?
One every 6 years.
One every 6 years, right?
Like, if you actually look at the quarterbacks that aren't, we'll say 1st and 2nd round picks, because your 2nd round brings guys like Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins into the mix. Unless Kirk Cousins was a 3rd round pick, correct me if I'm wrong. But
Kirk Cousins was a 5th.
5th round pick.
5th.
I don't know what I was thinking there.
He got drafted the same year as RG3.
Yeah, and Tannehill and
Yes.
Luck and Russell Wilson and all
Yes.
those guys. But those examples are very, very few. Like after Kirk,
Absolutely.
Russ, Dak,
Absolutely.
it's slim picking. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I get it. There is, and you know what? And this goes back to the whole Deshaun saga in Miami. I remember Chris Greer saying in his press conferences, like he was very, very open and honest about it. It's not that we don't think Tua is a good quarterback or a quarterback that has potential. It's the fact that when a guy like that becomes available, it's also my job to look at every avenue and explore every angle of a way to improve my roster.
Absolutely.
And getting a guy like every team, no matter what team it is, when we talk about Deshaun Watson, it's this guy can take them to the next level.
100%.
To me, it's crazy that now it's being reported that only two teams are in the mix for him, Panthers and the Saints. So we'll see where he goes. I think it's honestly going to happen pretty soon, especially after his legal decision on Friday. But we'll see. I want to hear from some people in the comments who you think the best signing was today, and who you think the worst signing was today. You can't say Christian Kirk for worst signing because that's too easy.
No, yes, that's a good question.
Everyone's gonna be ripping on him.
Best signing and then worst signing. And those that are in the Instagram live, just know we are live on our YouTube right now. So if you want to come ask some questions, hang out, come all over to our YouTube. The link is pinned in the chat.
All right. Who's your best signing of the day? Before you look in the chat.
Honestly, I think J.C. Jackson was the best signing of the day, to be honest. $16.5 million for a corner that just hauled in, 7 picks this year, 8 picks?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's just not, I believe.
And he's very young. He's like 25, 26 years old.
And this would have to be stacked, but I believe he also had the lowest, it was either him or AJ Terrell, lowest passer rating allowed when targeted. So, like, his Instagram handle is Mr. INT.
For a reason.
He's not just Mr. INT. Like, he's a lockdown corner. And in some years, he'll only have 2 interceptions, and it's pretty much just because he's not getting the ball thrown his way, like AJ Terrell was this year. That's a pretty good shout. It was definitely the highest profile signing. It was the biggest. I'm gonna say Devondre Campbell.
That was a steal too.
$10 million a year for an All-Pro linebacker.
Mike Martinez makes more than him.
The only thing is what I'll say is, like, he only has that 1 year of excellence sort of on his resume, because if we look at where he was before last year, I believe the Packers signed him for like $750,000 or $2 million last year. Super cheap deal. So I need to see the consistency from him. But if he's playing at an All-Pro level, you got him for the next 5 years at $10 million. The cap's going up. It's a crazy deal for a team that is going to have a ton of headaches in the salary cap for the next couple of years. Let's look in the chat now. I'm hoping to read some Chase Edmonds.
I'm seeing Cedric Wilson. That's your guy. Best signing for Cedric Wilson. We're signing Sheriff. We're signing Larry Ogunjobi. Why do you think Larry? I thought, look, okay, you got paid. You got a lot of money, but I think Larry Ogunjobi is a very good player.
Yeah, and I honestly thought he was one of those more under the rate. Like, if you would just watch any television show, any mainstream media outlet last year on the Bengals Super Bowl run, it was all, Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson has just transformed this defensive line. And yeah, Trey Hendrickson had a really special season last year. But those unsung heroes that sort of played in the interior, like B.J. Hill, who the Bengals re-signed today, Larry Ogunjobi, who parted ways with the team. But I don't know. I honestly kind of share that same feeling with you. I do think he's a pretty under-the-radar player. Deserving of a big payday. I don't know, but I think he's a guy that I take on my team. Those guys are underrated aspects of your defense. Defensive tackle.
100%. I think that's a big. I mean, as a Cowboy fan, I would love to have a big run stuffing guy that demands double team type defensive tackles, because you take Parsons for example. Like, if you have a defensive tackle that takes up bodies up front. Yeah. You can get your linebackers and guys to attack gaps, and that creates big plays, big plays for potential losses, right? And the Jags really overpaid everyone. I mean, that just goes back to what we said before. If you're signing guys on free agency, you tend to overpay just a little bit, right? But
yeah, even like it goes even down.
Got paid more than Campbell too. You're right though. Like, that was a very underrated signing. That Campbell deal with the Packers. Like, that was a $10 million, especially on a 5-year deal too. Like, that's.
You don't really see, especially in NFL free agency, you don't see 5 years very often. Maybe that's what was so enticing for Devondre Campbell,
especially now,
to get that longer term. Like, most the traditional deal is 3 years, $45 million, or 3 years, $30 million. Yeah. That's the textbook NFL free agency deal, especially with how short careers are in this league. But yeah, that's a deal that I liked a lot as soon as I saw it. I would love to hear all about the Cedric Wilson intrigue in the comments because my initial reaction as a Dolphins fan, yeah, I felt wide receiver was a need for us. I don't know if they're going to hold on to Devontae Parker next year. I always saw it as more of a thing that maybe we could do in the draft. I've seen so many mock drafts with Jameson Williams falling to 29 because of his knee injury, and that just got me so excited. And I said it earlier, maybe about half an hour ago, how it's so nice to get a fresh young wide receiver in the draft that you don't have to pay. So I don't know. I like the Wilson deal. You obviously know more about him than I do.
I think Cedric Wilson's a good player.
What was he, the fourth option?
He was our fourth option.
He had 600 yards and 6 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, well, because Gallup did have he was out for an extended period of time, and he's a reliable target for Dak. Like him and Dak have built a repertoire. He's been with Dak throughout his whole career. Zay Jones, that deal personally was that
might be worse than Christian Kirk's deal.
That might have been the worst deal. Yeah,
I don't know.
And it's crazy because they both went to the Jags.
Yeah.
Look, I have nothing against Zay Jones. I just think he's worth nowhere near $10 million. Crowded wide receiver room in Dallas. That's why he's going to. I agree, Sam. I do think that he has an opportunity to break out. We're talking about Cedric Wilson here.
Yeah.
I think he's got that chance and that opportunity to break out of Miami because, look, they got a young, brilliant offensive-minded head coach. And from a skill set standpoint, he's got a very, unique skill set. The guy was a former quarterback.
Well, I watched a couple of his through last year, and him wearing number 1 in Dallas and Tua wearing number 1 in Miami, they might have to have a fight over that jersey number now, or even a fight for the quarterback position.
They got an accuracy contest with number 1.
We were saying before we started the live stream today, joking around, that Miami signed 2 quarterbacks today with maybe not stronger arms, but maybe better than Tua. You'll never hear me say that, but it was what he was saying.
Ozuma under the radar pickup too. Yeah, I think Ozuma was.
I think the Jets in general, and this is coming from a Dolphins fan, I think the Jets had a good day, and it's specifically because of the Laken Tomlinson signing. I think it was a little bit pricey, but if you look at their O-line now, Mekhi Becton, who is a I know he got hurt last year, but cornerstone left tackle.
Yeah.
You got Vera Tucker, who was a really good as a rookie last year in the interior. Now you got Tomlinson on the other side. You got George Fant as your other right tackle. You're now going from a situation where it's oh my gosh, we're feeding Zach Wilson to the Wolves. Poor guy, this rookie has no chance in this league. To, hey, maybe we should have some high expectations out of this guy in year 2 because we're putting some decent guys around him. I still think they need a wide receiver. I think that's going to be addressed in the draft. But I don't know. That New York Jets O-line, and this is so weird for me to say because it's been forever since they had anyone, it's starting to look pretty good.
I agree. I think if you look at the Jets, I don't want to jump the gun too fast, but I think they're a sort of dark horse team to maybe win a few games next year and put pressure. Again, I'm not going to say they're going to sit here and make the playoffs, but you got to remember they're out. You got to add playoff teams. There's seven playoff teams now. You never know, right? If they can swing a few games, at the end of the day, Zach Wilson's very talented. Joe Douglas is brilliant. He knows what he's doing. He's building the team properly in the trenches, and I do think it would be wise. I know they just signed Barrios, and they have Elijah Moore, who I'm very high on. I think Elijah Moore has that receiver 1 potential, but it wouldn't be a bad idea for them. And Michael Carter too is a very good player. Very good player.
You still have Corey Davis, who a lot of people are down on after a bad year, but before he signed that contract, he was a 1,000-yard receiver or close to that with the Titans. So it's there are some pieces. They lack that guy that's going to demand attention. I think Elijah Moore can be that guy. I just haven't seen enough of it yet.
He's not it yet. Of course.
Because he's still very, very young.
Well, that's
but honestly, this Jets team, their defense still needs a ton of overhaul. But you can sort of, it's going to be a slow process. It's not going to happen in one night. And I think you should be happy about that. You should be happy that you're not being like Jacksonville and just saying, let's blow all our money. And 2 years from now, half of these guys are going to be cut and we're going to have a ton of dead money. So I think if I'm a Jets fan, I'm sort of feeling optimistic about where we're going right now as a franchise.
Absolutely. Here's an interesting question. How do the Seahawks rebuild?
I was actually talking about this with your buddy Cords last night at the VTFL. He's a big Seahawks fan, and I was so shocked about the Watson rumors to Seattle. I don't know.
I didn't buy it at all.
for me, the plan is, we've talked a lot about the AFC West, how good it is. The NFC West last year, we were saying this is the greatest division ever. I think the plan is, let's sit back a couple years. Drew Lock, for me, has to start this year. I know they don't have a great history with drafting, but it's almost like Pete Carroll, his tenure looks like the door's sort of closing. GM John Schneider might be on his way out too. So it's almost like, have a couple years with Lock. Let's build some assets in the draft. Let's try and draft well. And by the time you're ready to be good, or by the time you stockpile this big batch of draft capital, the rest of the NFC West, maybe Matthew Stafford's a little bit older. Maybe, the 49ers defense isn't as elite as it was to, or who knows, maybe they just couldn't recover from losing the genius of Mike McDaniel. And maybe Kyler Murray's on the Oakland Athletics by then. So to me, that's the game plan, sort of. If I'm the Seahawks, big picture, it might be a couple years of suffering, because that division just, it's insane.
I agree to the sense that if I was the Seahawks, I'm not driving through the storm. There's no way I'm going to try and grab my RV and you know what, let's go. Who cares? Bad weather, I'm going right through it. No chance. They're almost, I'll go into this after, but just sticking to the Seahawks, I call this a conspiracy theory if you want, but I think that Seattle looked at the team and said, look, we're going to trade Wilson here, but I would rather, I think from an ownership standpoint, they're like, let's let Pete Carroll and Schneider deal with the downfall of fans and trading Russell Wilson and getting rid of Bobby Wagner, instead of having a new coach come in and doing that right away, right? Like starting off the head coaching tenure and getting rid of Russell Wilson right away. But back on that point of not going through the storm, you have Seattle here, who clearly they're nowhere near, even with Russell Wilson, guys, let's be real here. Russell Wilson was carrying that team that from a roster standpoint, that's a bottom 5 roster in the league. Right.
Well, we saw when he got injured. They were terrible.
Exactly.
When he came back, it was
like, right?
Yeah.
So, if I'm Seattle, I'm not driving through the storm. Another team that should take advice from their fellow similar teams here, like you mentioned, the AFC West, is the Las Vegas Raiders. If I was Vegas, look. Nothing beats Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback. I don't think he can win a Super Bowl there.
You don't think he can win a Super Bowl there?
No, I don't. I think Derek Carr is around 12, 13, around there.
You really need a top 5. Like, do you think you can win a Super Bowl with Dak?
I think we could, but based on what I saw last year, I think you need to have some sort of weapons around him. But I think top 10 quarterbacks, there's maybe, like, I'll list them off the top of my head. I think Rodgers, Mahomes,
you got to put Brady. Oh, God. I thought we were done with this.
Allen, Herbert, Burrow,
Tua,
Kyler, I guess Dak. I mean, if I'm going to put Kyler there, I got to put Dak. And I'm not saying Lamar.
I don't want.
We're not going to get into this. We're not going to get into this. But regardless, Derek Carr. If I was Vegas, I'm shipping Derek Carr, and I'm not driving through that storm with all these emerging teams. And I'm saying, look, let's play it for maybe 3-4 years down the road. Maybe when they start having to pay Herbert $50 million and Russell Wilson's on the later end of his career and Patrick Mahomes' deal starts counting for $55 million towards the cap, that's when we'll scoop in, right?
I like that just because this year seems like the year where you have to go, like, teams have seen the Broncos go all in and go get Russell Wilson. Kirk Cousins was floated on the market. Someone's going to get Deshaun. This is the quarterback. Like, a year ago was when we had all this teased and held in front of us. Nothing happened. This year we're finally starting to see it happen. So I think you can capitalize on that excitement and maybe get a desperate GM that feels the pressure of his rivals upgrading in that position. And maybe you can fetch something that you're not going to get from Derek Carr in another year. Like a team like the Colts, and I feel like we'll get to them in a second, because they were radio silent today with all that cap space.
But they always are.
Yeah, they always are. They would love to have a guy like Derek Carr. Love to have Derek Carr. And I think that would be it's an upgrade on Carson Wentz. Let's be honest, and I'll say this again, I would put the Colts in the same group with the Chargers. In my eyes, the best teams did not make the playoffs a year ago. I mean, you have to fault them because they blew it in Week 18. But that, to me, on paper, is a playoff team. You got a good coach, you got a great O-line, great run game, and a really, really solid defense. You put a guy like Derek Carr there, I think you're a threat in the AFC. So I don't know. I'd love to hear in the comments who is going to be the quarterback of the Colts next season. To me right now, Derek Carr seems like a long shot. I know we were talking about him. I think it's between Marcus Mariota and Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, if I had to pick, it'd probably be Jimmy G right now. But Mariota's not a bad show. I know that they're interested in sort of. There's been multiple reports saying, if they aren't able to land that top guy, and I guess call Jimmy G a top guy, but then they'd resort back to Marcus Mariota.
Little compensation update. We were talking about Teddy Bridgewater earlier. His deal is officially 1 year, $6.5 million. And that's up to $10 million with incentives. So if Tua goes down like he did last year and he has to come in, he can definitely make some money. $10 million. That's a lot of money for a backup quarterback. I feel like a lot of people aren't going to like the Dolphins spending that much at that position. And maybe people are going to say, they still don't have a lot of confidence in him. I just think that when you have a young guy, it's important to bring someone in to support him with a lot of experience. I sort of like the move. It's tough to swallow at 6.5, but who knows? Could be worth it.
Absolutely. And for those of you who can say that again, Instagram, we are live on our YouTube channel. So if you guys are commenting down there, we won't be able to see it just because we're on YouTube right now. So if you want to come in and ask your questions, come on and click the link in the pinned comment and come ask your questions in our YouTube live. So another one comes from Benito Rodriguez. Who do you think the Cowboys are signing? Benito, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but as a Cowboy fan, I've seen this for way too long. The Cowboys tend to treat free agency as like, we're going to sort of keep our own guys and maybe wind up with a few bargain deals like they did with Jaron Kearse last year and Malik Hooker and hope they outplay their contracts, right? I don't think the Cowboys are going to go and break the bank for anyone. Sure, it's boring, but I mean, call it smart if you want to call it smart.
I think that's smart. I just, last year, and he reposted again, Ruben did a case study last year on free agency and if it's really worth it. And I know there's a couple stats of teams that spend the most, how they increase their wins. If we look a year ago, the Patriots spent all this money, and they increased their wins, but why did they get better this year? One, they were healthier.
Yes.
They COVID opted out their voice. Two, they had a massive upgrade at quarterback, which was from the draft, not free agency. Yeah, they bolstered their offensive line, but to me, half of the contracts that they signed a year ago, like your Jonnu Smiths, your Nelson Aguilars, they just didn't work out.
Yes.
And I feel like every year we see all these teams that spend so much money. The Dolphins did it 2 years ago. They signed Kyle Van Noy and Shaq Lawson, and a year later they were released. So, and I love how you said Malik Hooker, because there's always guys that linger till about July or August that are good players.
Yeah.
And you get them on discounts. And the Cowboys, I don't know. To me, that's the method. I think you build teams through the draft.
I agree. I think if you're a well-drafted team, you sort of build your foundation through the draft, and free agency's for like niches, right? Like if you need a specific role guy, you try and find that value contract. But at the end of the day, like if there's guys that are free agents, there's sort of a reason why they're free agents.
In a way. Yeah, you have your J.C. Jacksons, who's just like
your rare.
Obviously, the Patriots would love to keep him. The two sides just couldn't work out. But you're telling me if Arizona really, really wanted Christian Kirk and they went, I hate to keep picking on Christian Kirk today, but that's.
Hey, what if Christian Kirk comes out? I'm cheering for Christian Kirk.
Maybe I'm taking him in fantasy. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
He's gonna draft my fantasy.
PPR gem, Christian Kirk.
I got mixed emotions with the Steelers signing Money Mitch. What do you think? I love these Mitch Trubisky questions because I am the leader of the Mitch Trubisky fan club. I think that Mitch Trubisky. I said it back in February that Trubisky is the perfect bridge quarterback for Pittsburgh. Perfect for Tomlin's offense.
Bridge quarterback, but you know
who are they gonna go? They're dropping Malik Willis.
No, but it's just like bridge to me. It's like bridge quarterback means we're not ready. Like I genuinely think, and I think Mitch Trubisky has oftentimes faced unfair criticism in the media.
He made the playoffs twice with
He did, but he does have a shortcoming. He's like, don't get me wrong. MVP, that's right. Who's this question from? Because I need to.
GMTO_Drizzy.
Okay, GMTO_Drizzy. How am I feeling about Mitch Trubisky? I think he's a good-ish, like, to me his ceiling is that sort of middle of the pack, Jimmy Garoppolo style quarterback. And the Steelers have built a formula where you can win games with that. But I think we're going to look back on this elite wave of defense that the Steelers have. T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, and just maybe regret it a little more and say, hey, we should have pulled the trigger a little earlier
on a bigger name.
Yeah, I was Deshaun Watson to the Steelers 100%. Who knows? Maybe that's not even possible because Houston wants to ship him out of the AFC. That could very well be the case. And in that case, who knows? Then you're fighting between Mitch Trubisky and Jimmy Garoppolo. Trubisky's free. He's going to cost a whole lot less. It's a great move. And I think the Steelers made the playoffs with Big Ben last year. Sorry to say to the Steelers fans, I think Mitch Trubisky, you signed a better quarterback today than you had last year. Because Big Ben, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt, but his body is falling apart.
Absolutely. I think another thing, too, you mentioned how they could be, quote-unquote, wasting that defense. A lot of it falls on the shoulders of Ben, though. Okay, I know Pittsburgh, from an organizational standpoint, they're not going to kick Ben out the door because of everything that he did for that franchise. But I think it was a little bit selfish for him to keep coming back when it was clear, even 3-4 years ago, that...
No, I don't know if it was that long ago, but...
No, give me 2 or 3 years ago, I was watching Ben, I
think it was really when he got hurt that one year, which I think was 2 years ago now, and then when he came back last year, we sort of started to... I mean, they had a great start, and then, as soon as you got to November, the wheels started to fall off the bus. I don't know, like I said... A year ago, everyone predicted this massive downfall for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin's too good of a coach. That defense is too good. You're going to be in every game. You're going to have a chance to make the playoffs. You're going to compete in that division, which I think is going to be even tighter next year than it was this past year because the Bengals aren't invincible. The Ravens are going to be back. The Browns are going to be back, and the Steelers just got a new quarterback. So I don't know. I have mixed emotions. I think it could be a good thing. I do feel a little bit of we could have had more in terms of what the Steelers were doing.
Absolutely.
But we got in. Let's get some more questions, some more engagement here.
I appreciate that, Luke. Best in the business. Great setup. I know it's good. It's good setup over here. Look at it. Look at this sign. This beautiful sign here. It's amazing. I'm proud of Hawk and I think we've done a good job. I appreciate the love from Luke. If Deshaun goes to Carolina, does Seattle take Malik Willis? I don't think
Seattle's ready for quarterback.
Malik Willis is I'm probably gonna get blamed for this take, but I just don't think that Malik Willis is a franchise level quarterback unless exactly took the words right out of my mouth. If he does not go to the perfect situation, he's probably not going to go.
I mean, you can say that about
a lot of people.
But
yes.
I think the main takeaway from this draft class in general, and by no means am I an NFL draft expert, but the general consensus that I've gathered from reading, your credible guys like your Daniel Jeremiahs and your Lance Zierleins of the NFL draft world, the 5 quarterbacks that were drafted a year ago in the first round,
yes,
plus Davis Mills, are sort of all touted higher than the crop of QBs that we have this year. So it's if you're really not ready for a new quarterback and you're the Seattle Seahawks, let's look ahead till next year. You got a guy like Bryce Young, Heisman winner coming out, probably not going to be the best next year. Why not just wait?
Yeah, I mean, you look ahead at next year's quarterback class too, and it's very, very good. There's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and hey, even if Spencer Rattler has a pick back year too, there's always going to be guys that come out of the water too. But Tom Brady available trade? I don't think so. I know there's speculation saying he's going to go to the 49ers, but I don't think Brady's going anywhere. I think that's why he came back, because he saw how easy the NFC.
You know what my favorite part about this is he waited for Aaron Rodgers. Because to me, they'll never admit it, but they're playing mind games with each other. So Aaron Rodgers saw Brady retired. Okay, the NFC's mine now. It's so easy. All the good quarterbacks in the AFC, I'm back. I'm back in the day. A week, not even a week later, a couple days later. Okay, Aaron, you made your move. Now I'm making mine. I'm back too. It's just what are we doing over here, guys? I don't know. I'm so sick and tired of both of those guys and talking about them. And the fact that Brady retired for 3 weeks. He wrote this 10-page Instagram post about how he's so grateful and it's time to move on, and that's it. In 3 weeks he's back. I don't know, we're here to talk about free agency today.
Yeah, we've talked about Brady for years, but
Exactly.
unfortunately, any day 2 signing predictions.
That's a great question. I love that question. To me, tomorrow, my biggest prediction tomorrow is 24 hours from now, the Colts will have a new quarterback, and I think it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to pull the trigger. It's complicated because of his shoulder injury and the fact that he had surgery, but I do think he's eventually going to get moved. And we talked about the Colts, how they sat tight and did nothing today, even though they have almost $70 million in cap space. They got to make a move, and they need to get their quarterback before they can address the rest of their roster. I think they're going to go out and get Jimmy G tomorrow.
There's a report that just came out from Ed Werder. He says that my understanding is that Bobby Wagner is pursuing interest in the number 1 team on his preferred list. He has the Cowboys and Dan Quinn high on his secondary list of teams. So I assume, what do you think that number 1 choice is? Is it Denver?
I mean, you got to think Russ is in his ear there.
Right.
I mean, they came into the league together. They left Seattle together. Why not keep it going in Denver? It's an exciting place to play in terms of, they have a good history, and you're in a great division where, you're going to be competitive and you're going to be fighting for a division title. So, to me, I'd love to go there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Where's Teron Armstead going? That's a good game. I said Miami, but I don't know. I don't know, right? You kind of did talk me out of it. But I think, look, if we're talking about teams with, I could still see him going to Cincinnati. I could see Cincinnati saying, look, they saw Joe Burrow, hey, Joe Burrow almost got killed again in that Super Bowl. Let's not deal with this problem again. So maybe to go inside for an Armstead. But I think it's going to be between those two, if I had to guess.
And I would love to see Miami. So I'm not really looking past that as a destination. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team that's not them here, but I got blind. You know what? Sleeper team, and we just talked about them because Eric Fisher's walking, and they're a team that's always had a good offensive line. And if you get this guy, and then you go and get a quarterback, you're dangerous next year. And that's the Indianapolis Colts. Imagine a left side with Teron Armstead, and then you got Quentin Nelson right beside my left guard. You're telling me that Jonathan Taylor's not rushing for 2,000 yards, and whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or Marcus Mariota or whoever back there, Jordan Love,
absolutely,
they're gonna have all day. So
Jordan Love, I'm surprised about Jordan Love.
Well, because we originally thought he was sort of gonna go to the Colts.
If you go back to that draft, which was the 2018 draft or the 2019 draft. No, maybe
it was 2020.
Or was 2020?
It was the two year.
Yes, it was
so
2020.
The reason the Packers traded up, because they traded with Miami, apparently, is that they thought the Colts were going to pull the trigger on Jordan Love, and they wanted him instead.
Yes, because the Colts, there was reports that the Colts were trying to move up for Jordan Love at that specific time, which is why Green Bay, like you just mentioned, moved up for Jordan Love. So there's clearly the connection there, and that's why a lot of these teams, a lot of people go. The biggest misconception with the draft process, and even free agency for that matter, because it sort of ties in or trades down the line. The reason why these NFL teams meet with every single prospect or as many prospects as they can is because you never know what's going to happen down the line, right? Like, for example, you have the Colts. You met with Jordan Love a million times. They clearly liked him. You never know that down the line, 2 years, 3 years later down the road, Jordan Love could become available. So those pre-draft meetings and that eval that you did personally could come to value, especially for agency. Like, you don't think that these teams that are interested in signing guys that are 25, 26 that are free agents for the first time, they're not looking back at their pre-draft evaluations and their meetings saying like,
oh, GMs are like, where was I good fit?
Exactly, right? Like, oh, I interviewed this guy. This guy was a great kid. He's got a good shoulder. He got a good head on his shoulders. He's perfect. He's versatile. Like, they're really bringing that pre-draft evals in. And I think, I don't know if it's, I mean, there hasn't been too many concrete reports about it, but I may be holding out to the point that I still think that Jordan Love is a possibility in Indianapolis, just because, like if Green Bay doesn't move, like, what's the plan with Love?
So many people thought that when they drafted him, it's like, how much longer are you going to have Aaron Rodgers for? Obviously, they want to keep him as long as they can because he's giving them a shot to win the Super Bowl. I know, and that whole saga's gone a little hush now because when it came out, a Rapp and Schefter and Jay Glazer reported that it was a 4-year deal, but then McAfee said it wasn't true. Nobody knows how long that extension truly was.
It hasn't really
and Rogers said he hasn't even signed anything yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. If let's say that's true and it's a 4-year deal, what possible value does Jordan Love? What does he bring to you? So I don't know. They got to figure out what they want to do with him. At this point, what are you really going to get for him? Maybe a 3rd-round pick at most. Like he's just a rock.
They should take advantage of the weak quarterback class. So, like, look,
yeah, they should,
right? That's why I think it's a perfect time to trade him right now. But who knows? I don't know what Green Bay is doing. I don't work for the team, so if I did, I would have had Jordan Love shipped off. I know. I feel like Cordell Patterson would be great on the Colts. He could trust on JT. Yeah. I mean, look, I thought Cordell Patterson would have been perfect in Miami.
Yeah, and you know what? You got a guy like Mike McDaniel. We saw how we used Debo Samuel. That would be really intriguing. To be honest, and we talked a lot about Cedric Wilson before. I think Chase Edmonds was the best signing that Miami did today. I really do. I think he's a really electric playmaker, and he didn't really get a fair shot in Arizona. And before that, he was battling with Kenyon Drake. So I don't know. I'm excited with Chase Edmonds. I think that's pretty good value in terms of the amount that they got him for. But Cordell Patterson also, like in the Mike McDaniel system, would have been real cool as well. Who would you say was the biggest sort of disappointment today? And again, you can't say Jacksonville for a team. Like you just
let's hear biggest disappointment, biggest team disappointment. In the meantime, I'm going to answer this question because I think it's a pretty cool. I'm going to sort of spin off from it. But if you were a team, what team would you be scared of if they were to sign Odell Beckham? Or if you were a team, would you be scared of signing OBJ with the injury? That's the question. Sorry, I clearly can't English. But I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't think ACL injuries are. I mean, it's definitely a serious injury. I'm not going to go out and say that. Oh, it's like rolling your ankle. But I think athletes now recover from ACLs faster and stronger than before, just because of what's available. Rehab and nutrition, like, and even just straight workouts, like that. It's just the whole idea behind rehab is, if you just even compare it to 7-8 years ago, it's just way more advanced, right? I personally would not. I think Odell is going to get a pretty bargain deal, and it's probably going to be with the Rams if we're being 100% honest.
I think it's stay put in LA too,
right?
Because it just clicked from there, and we saw Odell at literally his lowest point in his career, where everyone believed that he had nothing left to give. Go into Los Angeles, and pretty much from day one there, he was very productive. And he's not the guy. You know, a lot of people when they went to the Super Bowl wanted to bring back this narrative that OBJ is back. Yeah, he's back to being a very good player. He's not the guy that we all fell in love with in the Giants. It's just he's not in that stage of his career now. He's not the number one target. He's not the superstar receiver. But as a wide receiver too, like, if you just think about Cooper Kupp, still there obviously, the fact that Robert Woods is going to be back, and a healthy Odell Beckham Jr., that is a ton. Like, show me one team that can match up and shut down those three guys at once. And you still got to worry about a backfield with Cam Akers, Sony Michel, I know he's a free agent, and Darrell Henderson too. So, like,
right, you make a good point there. Odell is the one thing that's so unique about Odell is the skill set that he offers individual teams and offensive coordinators in general, play callers would drool over being able to work with a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. And I think that's what you saw in LA is Sean McVay used him in like creative ways. He found him and got him in space, and he just allowed him to use his skill set. And I think that's how you got to deploy a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. So back to the original question, would I be scared? I don't think I would be scared, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's an ACL injury, right? So like you got to be somewhat concerned. And Odell's not the youngest receiver anymore either. He's been in the league for going on his 9th season or 8th season now. So he's got, and it's his second time he's torn this ACL, right? So like there's cause for concern in that direction. Can he come back from it? Can he overcome from it? I think so. I do believe in Odell as a person, and I think he's got the right mindset for him to overcome an injury like this, but I guess only time will tell. Thoughts on Juju? I like Juju personally. I think Juju's a good receiver. I think he's going to be a little bit overpaid because I don't know if he's like that number one or even number two. I think he's maybe like like if you have, let's say, give me off the top of my head, I think a perfect fit. What's your perfect fit for Juju? What is all your perfect fit for Juju?
I honestly thought he was going to go to the Jaguars. It's not going to happen anymore unless they just continue to spend and spend and spend and spend, which at this point wouldn't even be a surprise. But in terms of where I stand on Juju, I think he sort of got a bit of a bad rap, and it was a little bit unfair to him just because when he came into the league, he was, if we look at what he's capable of now, he was outperforming. He was overachieving when he came into the league. Now he's sort of fallen back down to earth. He had the whole saga when AB was, jawing at him because Juju was taking all the targets, and when AB was on his way to Pittsburgh. And then we got into all the TikTok phase, and that hurt his stock a lot, at least in the eyes of fans. But if you look at the actual product that he brings on the field, he's big. He's a very good route runner. He's very physical. He's a tough player. I like him. I think he can be useful. I think the person who's asking that question, which is Jeremiah Pearson, his YouTube photo here is a Bears logo. What about the Chicago Bears?
That's a cool.
Allen Robinson's on his way out.
That's a cool.
You have
fit.
a young Justin Fields.
I agree.
There's some solid weapons in Chicago. Like, you got Darnell Mooney, who I like. I don't think he's wide receiver 1. I don't think Juju is necessarily 2. But it's another option that can sort of take the burden off of Justin Fields. It's a fresh start. I know it's a big market, but it's a team that definitely needs help at that position.
I mean, I think if you're talking about a fit, he would fit really nice with Mooney. Like, I think those two complement each other pretty well. I think they're similar skill sets, but also very different in the sense like that they, like, you can't, in today's NFL, I'm starting to have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that, like, you can't really have two similar types of receivers in one offense.
Yeah. Well, you look at the Chargers, who just gave all this money to Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is your slot guy. He's shifty. Mike Williams, hate to say this, but a $20 million wide receiver. He's a jump ball guy. That's what he does.
Yes.
He can go deep. He can catch jump balls. Perfect for Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
But he's pretty one-dimensional.
Absolutely.
They have a perfect complement of two very different players.
Yes. So, I mean, but back to the point. Like, I think they are. I think in terms of a fit, Juju would be interesting in Chicago. I think he would be able to work personally. What happens to Michael Thomas? Have you heard anything about him? That's a guy that, like, we were talking 3 years ago. Michael Thomas was best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
Right.
And now it's just been like, he hasn't played really in like 2 seasons.
He hasn't played.
And
since like COVID.
It was like he's going to get a trade from the Saints, but now his value's at an all-time low. I'll say it again. This looks like a deep wide receiver class. Would I rather have a fresh, young 22-year-old who just ran a 4.4 coming out of college and is going to cost me, $2 million this year? Or would I rather have to trade a 4th-round pick, maybe more, for a player of the caliber of Michael Thomas, who comes with, his off-field antics where he's complaining on social media, and I don't know. It's just like, to me, if I'm him, if I'm the Saints, it worked there. Like, there's a recipe that worked. Try to fix that relationship. Hey, if you bring in Deshaun Watson and you have Michael Thomas to give him too,
that's a connection.
That's a pretty dangerous day one connection.
Of course, right? Like, there's no doubt the talent for Michael Thomas is there, right? Like, that's not the question here. But I mean, if we're talking about a day one connection, that's just perfect. Talk about Deshaun Watson and Michael Thomas. That's a fantastic connection. Let's get those liked numbers, boys. Come on. What, we got 15 likes in here? There's 18 people here. It's gotta be at least in the 20s. But where's AB going? Antonio Brown is going nowhere.
So I was actually having this debate. Do you think he's ever going to play again in the NFL?
No,
because he's on our tracker at like 35, and I'm just wondering if I'm ever going to fill that night.
You got to put him there.
No, he's still capable of being a really, really good player. The only thing is a team.
Look, the like numbers. I'm telling you. See, look, they got. It's with the 17. Someone just unliked it. I gotta find out who that was.
Oh boy.
But go back to what you were saying about AB.
It's just like the only possible scenario to me that he plays another snap in this league is a team just gets so desperate to, one, fill their stands, to add talent at receiver. But it's just like, what does he bring to your organization that makes a general manager say, I need to have that? Like, we're talking about a guy who...
He's not AB from 5 years ago.
No,
that's why.
but he's still a really good player.
Yes.
It's just the fact that his last moment in this league was him tearing off his equipment and throwing it into the stands and storming out of the stadium during the middle of a game where his team was pretty banged up at receiver. They were losing to the Jets. Like, I don't understand. Like, I you know what? I would love to be wrong because I think he brings an excitement to the league that not a lot of players can bring. I just don't see it.
What's a realistic deal Chandler Jones could get, and who are the main players for him? So, I think Chandler Jones still demands upwards to $16, $17 million annually.
Well, if we look at what Ogba got today, I mean, Chandler Jones he's
what did
a little
Ogba
bit
get?
around that number, about $16 million.
Yeah. And you look at,
16 and a half, I think it was.
But then see, Ogba's younger than Marcus Lawrence just signed. I know it was an extension, sort of like a raise, which ended up being $10 million annually, but you can't really compare it to that. But I think Chandler Jones, if we're talking about fits, one that jumps right out at me, and I mean, but I hate saying it because they just got Khalil Mack and they have Joey Bosa, but why not just add another Chandler Jones?
The thing is, though, they're not going to pay him $17 million bucks if that's the case. It's going to be like a discount. Cheap.
But what if it's like a 1-year deal?
Yeah, and to me, that is something that I think could be intriguing with a player like that because he is a little bit on the older side. Maybe he wants to take a year at a discount price, 1, to win, 2, to just really show that I still have a lot to play, and then maybe try to cash in on an even bigger deal the year after.
Right.
When you have a bit more of a start. Because if you look at Chandler Jones, how his season went last year, week 1 he had 5 sacks. After that, he really, really slowed down. So I still think he's a really productive player.
Denver, too.
Denver could be interesting, especially if Von Miller doesn't come back. You've got Bradley Chubb on one side, Chandler Jones on the other. Thing with Chandler Jones is health, too.
Yes. Well, and he's getting up there in age, too. But he's still a good player.
Like, I would, if I'm a team and I need an edge, he's experienced. To me, he still has quite a bit left in the tank, and he can be a real threat rushing off the outside. So that could be interesting.
Packers not. The Packers, sure, on paper are a good fit, but again, I feel like they're dealing with their own sort of cap issues here. Like they're trying to figure out who they're. I mean, now I'm sure Devontae Adams is looking at that Christian Kirk deal, and he's like, because before they sort of had that argument, the counter argument against that Hopkins deal was like, oh look, Hopkins was sort of like the outlier of the receiver market, right?
Because his contract was like an extension that sort of shifted his cap hit. It was a weird the way the Hopkins. Because he didn't sign that when he was a UFA. Yes. He signed that when he had deals or years remaining already. Adams, I believe, is slated to make $20 million as someone who's being franchise tag. So that definitely changes things. It came out this morning that he's not going to play on the franchise tag. We'll see how he can, how strong he is in holding that argument, especially with the moves that the Packers are making. They look like they're going to be a really good team next year. I don't know. I just think that Green Bay has to do everything that they can to get something done with him because players don't like playing the franchise tag.
No, I wouldn't like it either.
Yeah. So, you know what I want to hear from the chat? I want to hear everyone, your team and dream signing. So dream signing for your team. There's still a lot of players. I got the tracker in front of me still. There's a lot of talent.
Who are your favorite teams?
Exactly. So if you're a Saints fan and you think your dream signing is, I don't know, DJ Chark at wide receiver. That's it. That's what I want to hear from.
Let's hear that. Favorite teams section. And your dream signings. I'm a Cowboy fan, and my dream signing would be, I guess Bobby Wagner. I guess that'd be pretty cool having him and
pair him and Mike Parsons.
That'd be pretty cool. Teron Armstead, Fins. There, Meech. There you go, baby. Yeah, I mean, look, that's perfect. That's a perfect spot. Like, I'm telling you, that's a perfect spot.
Now, like I said, I'm concerned with what we have left. We still have to sign our draft class, which obviously takes, usually about $10-12 million. But I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I mean, if I'm Chris Greer, looking at what we've done today, after the Jaguars, we were the busiest team today. We made the most signings. So you're looking at your team saying, okay, I got a lot done today, but did I really help take my team to the next level? Because let's not beat around the bush. If Miami doesn't improve their offensive line, they have no chance of making the playoffs next year with how good the AFC is. No chance. So I don't know. It's definitely an interesting time. New deal that just came in. The Broncos have agreed to terms with defensive tackle DJ Jones.
DJ Jones, 3 years, $30 million. That's a pretty good deal, dude. To be honest, I like DJ Jones. I think he's a good player.
What did I say about an hour ago? That's your typical deal in NFL free agency.
Yeah.
3 years, $30 million.
3 years, $30 million. Like that's a good contract. Cowboys dream. Bobby Wagner, Saints fan. Honey Badger. That's a guy that we're not talking about.
And it's so weird. He's one of the only players ever in NFL history to be a safety that's in a position that's deemed to be not all that, let's say, like, it's not a very valued position. We're talking about Kyle Hamilton in the draft this year. Everyone's saying there's no way you can take a safety number 2 overall in the draft. And the Honey Badger is going to be a guy who's going to get not just 1, not just 2, but 3 big paychecks in his career. So I don't know where he's going to go. It's been pretty quiet.
Do you think Jarvis Landry to the Saints? I see a comment here, but that just goes back to the point. It's like I feel like Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas are like the same type of receivers. Like they're possession receivers.
Yeah,
right?
and that's why
I don't know if that's a fit.
I thought honestly I was gonna show up to the live stream today with my Jarvis Landry Dolphins jersey on, even though it's a tight fit. But I was thinking about doing it. All the Dolphins fans wanted this reunion because he was a fan favorite when he was in Miami. I just think I'm not going to say he's similar in terms of his skill set to Jalen Waddle, because at the root of it, and when Jalen Waddle was coming out of college, he was hailed as this deep threat wide receiver. He wasn't used like that in year 1 in Miami, but he was used as a guy of how we used to use Jarvis Landry. You get the ball in his hands and let him make moves.
Yes.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Jarvis Landry. It's an intriguing one. I wasn't surprised at all that the Browns released him. His salary just got to the point where it wasn't matching with his level of production and his level of play. Who knows? Maybe it's an Odell Beckham Jr. situation with him, though, because when he left Cleveland, and a lot of people are going to forget this, like I said it to you today, he's a 5-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry.
Like in Miami, he was considered a top 10, 12 wide receiver.
That was a massive deal when he left. Remember he was a free agent, or did you guys trade him?
I believe we traded him for like a 3rd, maybe 2 third-round picks. I was devastated because I think we maybe franchised tag, or we didn't want to franchise tag him. I don't know. It was a whole disaster. He didn't really get along well with Adam Gase. But yeah, I was devastated when we traded Jarvis Landry because he was such a good player for us.
Yes, I agree. And like that was if we're looking at like dating back at just sort of blasting to the past, that he was a big name. Like there was a point in time where Jarvis Landry was considered, like you mentioned, a top 10 receiver in the league. Yeah. Right? Top 10.
I don't know. We'll see what happens with Landry. It's definitely I don't know. I think a lot of these guys we're going to see take their time, see what's out there, especially the receivers, because they saw what went down today, and maybe they can think they can get some extra money. I don't know, but overall it was a pretty busy day 1 in terms of big names that are still in the market. Of course, we talked about Teron Armstead, Von Miller. We talked about him as well. Chandler Jones, Bobby Wagner, Stephon Gilmore, Zadarius Smith got released today, and I don't know if there are any Packers in the chat. They can maybe educate me a bit better on this. But to me,
they kept the brother.
They're not brothers, but they called them.
Or they're not brothers.
They're not brothers. No.
What?
You thought Preston and Zadarius were brothers? They call them the Smith twins or the Smith brothers.
I thought they were actual brothers.
No, they signed them at the same time, and they were both really good in year 1. But after that, at least to my understanding, Zadarius and when I would watch the Packers, Zadarius was definitely the better player. Except this year he had injury problems, and Preston sort of had a bounce-back year. But I was just shocked that they kept Preston Smith and they released Zadarius Smith. So he's going to be another guy that has a lot of suitors as well. He's a younger option to Von Miller and Chandler Jones. Who knows? Maybe it comes at a discounted price as well. I'm not totally sure on that one. The Allen Robinson market as well is out there. It's a guy who got franchise tagged a year ago. Talk about the franchise tag, how it's just the worst thing. How much money would Allen Robinson have made on the open market last year? And what's he going to get now? It's crazy.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, I still think he's going to get a fair share good chunk of change. Don't get it. Don't. I mean, I don't think he's going to nearly be as valuable as he would have if he just had left last year. But he's still going to get paid.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just think that like last year, literally everybody would have been fighting, clawing at each other trying to get this guy. I still think the Colts is a great, great landing spot. I feel like I'm putting everyone to the Colts now just because they have so much cap space. But I don't know. They still have to figure out their quarterback issue. I guess we'll do some predictions for tomorrow. What's going to go down? One, we'll start off with this. Who is the next big name that is going to come off the market? Today I'd say we were sort of waiting all day from about 12 to 5. There was a lot of action that was going down, but there wasn't that one big deal. And then the J.C. Jackson one sort of just shook everything up. So who is it going to be tomorrow?
I also want to hear what you guys think. What team got the... Okay, you obviously have the Jags and you have the Dolphins that made the best signings, but what team got better today and what team got worse? Right? Because there's guys that lost players. Just because the Jags signed all these guys doesn't mean they got better. Just the same with the Dolphins. I want to hear what you guys think. Bobby Wagner, we just touched upon Bobby Wagner. I think the Bobby Wagner's... I remember there was a report from Ed Werder saying that he's leaning towards his number one destination. I don't know what his number one destination is. But we'll have to wait and see there.
It's kind of a silly report. No wouldn't you always be leaning towards it's your number one destination for a reason. No wonder you're leaning towards that.
Honey Badger, Marcus Williams. You know what? Marcus Williams is another guy that is sort of flying under the radar because he's young and he plays. I think that he just falls victim to the safety position in general because I feel like safeties sort of get overlooked.
Yeah.
On the free agent market, and they don't tend to maximize value. That's why Jamal Adams sort of did his whole antics so he could get paid because the fact of the matter is these safeties they very rarely hit their max value, right? And Marcus Williams, if Marcus Williams is a corner, he's 26 years old, and he's going into this prime. If he was a corner available in the market, that guy is going to make big bucks, right? So I don't know. Do you think you see the Cowboys signing anyone like Wagner or Matthew? No, it goes back to it. I don't think the Cowboys are going to really sign anyone big just because that's the way that's sort of not. They don't really operate in that direction, right? That's not sort of the way they go. Philly got better. Philly did get better.
I like that comment. I do. I think Hassan Reddick is a nice signing.
100%.
And if you look at that division, especially Hassan Reddick coming off the edge, all those teams have solid tackles.
100%.
So you need to get to the quarterback, and quarterback position is not incredibly strong in that division. Of course, after Dak, there's a bit of a drop off. So making the quarterback's days harder is always a great way to win the football game. I like what Philly's doing. I like the sort of the recipe that they're going by. Hard-nosed team that can run the ball. I definitely put Philly in that conversation.
Gilmore to the Bills. See, Gilmore had a sour exit last time, but it was a different regime, right? So
the thing is, though, it depends on where you feel or how you feel. Sorry about Stephon Gilmore. If you feel he's still that CB1 lockdown kind of guy, because I think when he came in Carolina last year. I didn't play a whole season, but he was pretty solid, especially if you look at his deeper statistics and metrics and all that. I don't know. The Bills have needed a second corner to play on the outside for a while now. They have Tre'Davious White. They have, I believe, Teron Johnson in the slot, who got paid about last offseason. That outside corner spot is always something that they needed to bolster. It's a nice idea. But like you said, he was already there. Sort of the exit wasn't the prettiest. He went to a division rival. I don't know if it's going to quite go down like that. So, I don't know. We'll see.
The Bucks were big winners. Obviously, the Bucks were big winners because of the fact that they kept Brady.
I was surprised
when everyone started coming back. I knew it.
We talked just to open up the stream today. If everyone was here, I'm not sure. When we talked about Alex Kappa, literally 12 o'clock 05 on the seconds clock. he was already going to Cincinnati's bags were packed. When I first saw his name, Buccaneers guard Alex, I just thought he's coming back right away, and I just thought it was the whole Brady effect. And I was like, you got to be kidding, because none of these Bucs guys were staying before. They signed Carlton Davis again today, who I think is a really underrated quarterback. They're a team that definitely is all of a sudden within the last 24 hours vaulted themselves right back into the Super Bowl conversation. As soon as Brady announced he was coming back, all the sports books completely took off
right off the market, right off.
Super Bowl betting and NFC Championship betting right off the market, because hey, they got to adjust them after Tom Brady comes out. So, are we doing this thing till 10 or 10:30? What did we say?
Well, I mean, I think 10's fair because when else we're going tomorrow and
Tomorrow
we're also going
and Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll be back at, I think we posted on the Instagram 9 to 12 tomorrow.
Yeah, 9 to 12.
And then Wednesday was somewhere along the lines of 2:30 to 5, I think. That sounds
9 a.m.
correct.
to 12 tomorrow and 2:30 to 5 Eastern time on Wednesday.
So everyone who joined in today, thank you so much for being active in the chat. It was great. Thanks for tuning in. It was awesome. We really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. Of course, we do our podcast every single week, but for free agency, we just decided to go live. We thought it would be better.
I mean, if you guys like this, like it's fun for us to go live. Like this, like I said, it's the first time we're doing it on YouTube, so we apologize for the lagginess, and we'll bear with us. We'll get better as the days go on, but. We appreciate you guys all for sort of tuning in, even if it was just short. I know 2 hours is a long time for you guys to commit. Like Pop just mentioned, we're going to be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. till noon, and then Wednesday from 2:30 to 5. So we'll be doing the same thing, sort of breaking news, like we're doing right now, asking and answering your questions. But yeah, don't forget to like. Look, see what I said? I told them, let's get the like button to go up, and it's at 20. Let's see if we can get more likes now. Crazy. Let's see if we can hit 25 before you come off. 25.
You got a Mike McDaniel type pull on you, where you just whatever you say, people follow.
Right? It's good. Crazy. It helps the channel grow. You know, I'm still new to this whole YouTube stuff, but I'm pretty sure that if you hit subscribe and if you hit like, it's good, right?
It is good. And I if anyone's still hanging around in the chat, I'd love to ask, because I think was it the bit rate? Is that what they said?
Yeah, the bit rate.
So I did toggle with that. I lowered it by quite a bit throughout the stream. I'm not sure if it did anything, if it helped. But if it did, let me know in the comments, just so we know for tomorrow and Wednesday and future streams that it's a little bit better quality for everyone who's watching. But yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun. It was great to engage with a lot of you guys in the comments. And if you're up for it, tomorrow morning,
9 a.m.
Get your bowl of Cheerios.
Have a coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Make some flapjacks.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Some hash browns, and come listen to us talk. I know I get annoying after a while because. I mean, thank God it's free to see the Cowboys are sort of dead here because they don't
you should
do
see
no
this
moves
guy
here.
in Wild Card Weekend. It's just all day about the Cowboys,
right?
This, Cowboys that.
Of course, that's what I mean. At the end of the day, you gotta love it, dude. That's what it is. Look, 21 likes now. Okay, thank you guys so much. We're gonna be back 9 a.m. tomorrow. If you don't want to miss any of our future videos and stay up to date with what we're doing on our YouTube channel, because we are trying to pump out a lot of content on here, feel free to like. And subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss when we post a video or when we go live. We appreciate you guys all for tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 9.